Folks, you are more than welcome back to another episode of the Friday Flows. Cameron's my name for anyone that hasn't seen one of our episodes before. You're very welcome. Today we've got a pretty special episode, to be honest with you. I'm actually really excited for this one. A guy I've been wanting to pick the brain of since he joined Tines and has a really unique background in terms of automation and also experience when it comes to security automation specifically that will really highlight some areas that kind of shows the strengths of Tines and what we can do. So again, guys, as I said in any previous episode, before we do kick off into this, yes, we're going to be showing the technology. Yes, we're going to be talking around automation, but if there's ever anything specific that you're interested in seeing us talk about Tines, whether it's use cases, things that we can do in terms of features, please do leave a comment. Make sure to like and share, obviously, if you found the episode an interesting one. And without further ado, on today's episode, we have my man Sif Baksh. Sif, how are you, brother?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited to have you on. So, Sif, for anyone that hasn't met you before, by the way, anyone I definitely recommend following and connecting with Sif on LinkedIn because he's a wealth of information, and I've actually learned more probably in the like 2 months that he's been with us than I have probably in the last couple of years looking at different engineers LinkedIn. So definitely do that. But yeah, Sif, obviously great to have you on, man. What I'd love you to kind of just start off with before we dive in is just giving us a quick intro of kind of what you do at Tines and yeah, maybe giving us a bit of background on how you found your way into automation because you've a pretty colorful background on that front.
Thanks. So, as Cameron said, my name is Sif Baksh. I'm stationed in Georgia, so Atlanta metro area, but covering all the Southeast. Solutions engineer, basically a fancy word for a sales engineer. So, but I've been doing automation honestly since I was a kid. First intro in automation was playing a game called Soldier of Fortune or Half-Life back in the days. And basically, we had getting logs from the server and being able to create a website based off of all the log data. Basically, I taught myself Perl and how to create a CGI bin website and able to generate these HTML files. So showing all the kill death ratio of all the matches that goes on and learn, Linux to set up cron jobs to automatically run those. And then when other gaming groups got together and found out that I was doing this for them, they asked if, I can do it. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it for free. It's just for me to learn more and manage more of these servers and logs and stuff like that. So that's, 15 years old. That's how I got into automation, man.
How
It
did
was
how did it affect your gaming performance? Did the kill death
ac
ratio get worse after you put all that work
no,
in?
actually no, it was actually still up. It was I was highly ranked at the time, but
Nice.
I gave up gaming a very long time ago because I got into cybersecurity.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but that's
It's
that's that, that's probably a good trade-off. Like,
it definitely was. It was one of those things where it's like, hey, you got to give it up to,
yeah, man.
to continue your career. So,
So what kind of happened from there? Like obviously that's kind of how you found your way getting into security. What was the process for kind of getting into the area that you kind of and the world you've been in for the last couple of years, which is kind of SOAR security automation? What was the bridge to that? How did that come about?
that came about the fact that there's such a need for people in the cybersecurity, even when I started many years ago. But automation is key, and I've been trying to promote that basically all my life, any job I was at, because there's so much for us to do with always less resources, meaning people. People are our number one resource we don't have. So it's, yeah, you can throw money at a problem, but it never fixes it. So
Mm,
until automation came in, and that's where I'm all now promoting automation. Doesn't matter what your field is, you can automate so many things and make your life so much more efficient.
mm,
SOAR is one of those things that, yeah, as we grow every year, and not even every year, every month, we're generating so much more data, so much more information. How do you process these things? And that's where, automation platform really intrigued me. And, Tines, honestly, the low code, I'm not. Like I tell everyone, I'm not trying to sell you, but it actually works. It's a drag and drop low code that actually impressed the heck out of me before I even started the company.
Was that because when I started the Times and I got into a space of dealing with low code, no code technology, I felt that there was potentially a kind of a status quo, or that people had a maybe an inbuilt skepticism to like no code in general. Was that your potentially was that where you were coming from before you had seen Tines, and kind of how has that changed and why?
Oh, you're 100% accurate because I like writing my own code because I'm in control. I can do it. I can write it and be more efficient than any low code. But honestly, working with Times reduced my build time to about, I would say 70%. And then even on top of that, just then we introduced some AI capabilities, and that just cut that 30% of my build time now down another 80%. So now I'm even more efficient, where I'm like, yeah, I never need to write code again. I know it. I like writing it, but honestly, I don't need to. And that's insane the amount of time it saves me. So a project that would normally take me 6 hours to do, using Times without the AI, cut it down to about 70%. And then after that, another 80%. That's
Yeah,
insane, man. Now my build time is about 30 minutes to build something cool.
that's insane. That's
Yeah.
mad. Like I know that you have a obviously you have a background in SOAR, and you've worked with traditional SOAR vendors in the past, and now you're with Tines. Like in terms of I think one thing that I've kind of noticed with the industry in general. Now, I have worked in America, but I've definitely seen this very prevalently on the EMEA side. Is sometimes I think teams can maybe feel the attitude towards automation that it's kind of a nice to have as opposed to a need to have. How have you seen attitudes change towards SOAR initially from all the years that you've been in it? Like how in terms of teams willing to adopt this, and yeah, just how much of a priority it's kind of become recently versus what it kind of used to be. What would your perspectives be on that?
To me, it now becomes it's a must-have. And that's where I'm seeing from the years of doing this, it's more along the lines of we can't do our job efficiently without automation. And that's where it's coming to play. Like, I was talking to a bank the other day, actually a Black Hat, and they were telling me about a process that they have where um, customers from the outside submit for a bank loan, but all their data is zipped with a password protected. And they're a very large federal credit union, and they're talking about maybe processing about 50 of those a day. So they get it manually, they upload the file, check to make sure there's no viruses or anything, and then report to the people. And I'm like, well, is this a SOC use case or more of a business? They're like, well, kind of both. I was like, why don't we automate that instead of automating your entire phishing as an example, and walk them through the process of how we could do that. They were blown away. I was like, look, we can build a self-service portal using what Tines call pages and giving them the results in real time. And they were just blown away how simple of a use case that is to build within Tines.
Yeah,
And now they are just freeing up all their SOC analysts from doing this manual labor. And it was something that we're not even thinking about automating.
yeah,
Everyone wants to do the basic, the phishing, the EDR, the SIM, all of that. Yes, everyone can do that. We all can. But let's take it to the next level where we can give empowerment to the rest of your organization as well,
yeah.
and as well as help the security operations.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like I've definitely seen, as you said, there's a perception of SOAR, and I think, with that, obviously there comes, resource intensive deployments. There's potentially a ceiling in terms of the use cases that are there. I think what I've noticed with Tines is kind of by proxy of having something with the flexibility in terms of integration, and having something, as you said, with very quick build times. You're not necessarily limited to a predefined avenue to get to where you want to go. It's kind of more of a, when I've looked at Tines, it's we're not an opinionated platform. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like We're just giving you what you need to do to automate what you want. But obviously, as you said, that requires people to have that kind of light bulb moment of, right, I actually didn't even think about automating this, but of course you can. So yeah, man, absolutely dead on point, for sure. So what I'd love to kind of understand then from your perspective, Sif, is in the last while of using Tines, like what are some of the things, and we can potentially jump in the platform as well. What are some of the things that you found interesting and different, and you know, in regards to the technical stuff that you built out?
Honestly, one of the main two things that really, actually, there's quite a few, but I'll just cover two things in this session here. Um, One was the webhook. Basically, I can, and matter of fact, give me 1 second. I wasn't ready to do this. But one of the things that I'm going to showcase real quick here is the capability of actually um, dragging a webhook in and explaining to some folks who are not familiar with it. So one of the things that I found really powerful is, like I said, webhook. And from there, you can actually immediately get a URL that you can start sending data to. And of course, you can add some stuff around protection around it. But the capability that I thought was awesome is where you can actually add rules into here. So you can actually match rules and build a rule logic on when to actually process this. So in case, you have a SIM, you have an EDR or something, hey, they always send out informational little noise. So like even if it's like, hey, nothing to report, but every minute they're sending something out to you. This
Mm,
is where you can actually help filter out that noise and only process stuff. So just something as simple as a webhook rule to me is massive by how simple it is, how elegant it is, but how much noise it can reduce for you as a customer. That
that's
to me,
interesting.
that to me was an extreme powerful use because like I've said, I've tested so many platforms out there, worked with so many different vendors. This rule alone really helps from that standpoint. So you can think a million different ways to do that. Plus, you can add additional rules on top of this. So it just doesn't have to be one, it could be one or many. And that's the where the logic comes into play. So you can have 50 different platforms send the webhook action, but I'm only going to process the ones that I care about. So to me, it's a very powerful,
That's
simple,
interesting.
again, simple but powerful.
Yeah, stops the floodgates being opened, especially when it comes to alerts from a sim.
Eh,
It's actually the first time someone's ever shown me that with a webhook on Clients. That's really cool, man.
Oh, thanks. And that's where, to me, like I said, a lot of folks, that have been here longer than I'm like, do you know how that's gold to me, man? These are little nuggets that are so powerful. The other one that I really, really find useful is this, receive email. And everyone was like, why? And I demoed this to a customer. I was like, look, I got a Times email address. I
Yeah,
don't need to set up anything else. They're like, what do you mean? I was like, so for phishing, just forward it to this email address. And they're like, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, I'm not, dude. This is how simple this is to use. And that's the power of Tines. And that's where I'm saying these two actions, there's many, but just these two alone is so powerful as a customer that it really resonate with me and customers because it's an email address already set up to you for phishing. So all I got to do is forward to it, build out my phishing flow, and I'm done. That it's that simple. Or even if it's like I was referring to, even if you want it to be not even a self-service, I can actually now use this as that email instead of being using Pages, where you
yeah,
could forward me that zip file with the password. I will then get it, unzip it, send it to a sandbox, find out the results, pull it back in, email it back to you, and said it's safe to open without you doing anything else. You didn't need to create an email, hook up an inbox, or anything like that. That simplicity there to me is worth its weight in gold. So,
yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome.